Hi, this is Greg Gaylor, the Executive Director of the Boston Preservation Alliance, and I'm here today with Mark Pasnik, Principal of OverUnder and author of Heroic Concrete Architecture and the New Boston, also a professor at Wentworth. Mark, thanks for joining us in lieu of our scheduled annual meeting.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to actually doing it in person, though, eventually.
That's the game plan, but in the meantime, we'll live in the virtual reality here with the Lindemann building behind me. Tell me a little bit about how you're interested in this architectural style developed.
Well, it began more than a dozen years ago when Mayor Menino at the time was talking about possibly selling or tearing down Boston City Hall. And Elizabeth Pageant, who ran Architecture Boston at the time, got a number of small and emerging practices together to do proposals for how the building might change to make it a better building. And so we ended up meeting with Michael McKinnell and Gerhard Kallman and producing a set of proposals for the building. It prompted us to look around Boston a little bit more carefully, and we suddenly realized that there was this enormous collection of what we deemed very, very high quality, unusually high quality buildings in concrete by some of the world's greatest architects.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because as you know, people have looked at these buildings one way, and you've really provided a different perspective. Why do you think we've turned the corner on City Hall and we're seeing some positive evolution there?
I think there's a generational shift and a kind of further distance from these buildings, that they're suddenly perceived a little bit more in an intriguing fashion. I think it's been pretty hard work on the part of many preservation groups, historians, advocates for these buildings in terms of reframing the discourse around them. And I think there's a much deeper understanding about them in the public, and perhaps some of the misnomers about them and some of the automatic reactions that they're monstrous or ugly have faded away and been replaced by maybe not love of them, but at least interest in them. And I think that's a big part of the battle that we've been attempting to wage, is to get people to understand them better and think more about what their value is.
Right, I agree with you. I think the long-term effort on behalf of the Preservation Alliance and DocoMomo and other advocates for the buildings have gotten people to realize that, we're not talking about not changing these buildings. We're not fools to think that they don't have issues and challenges that need to be worked through and that changes are acceptable. I think that's actually an interesting transition into talking very briefly about the sad news in the last few days about the passing of Michael McKinnell. And you spent a lot of time talking with him about City Hall and about this style in general. And he was certainly one to recognize that these buildings were designed to change and evolve. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, my co-authors, Chris, Michael, and I spent a lot of time with him and really grew to admire him and have a friendship with him. I was so impressed really from that first meeting we had with him and Gerhard, how they believed that change was meant to be part of the DNA of the building itself. City Hall was meant to be something that would be, as they said, adorned by others, by future generations. And Michael always often spoke about the idea of trying to have, let's say, younger ideas present in the thinking about the future building. So he was quite open from the very beginning to that sensibility, and we were drawn to that. And he was very appreciative of newer generations wanting to change his building. He felt he wasn't possessive about it. He really felt they had started a process and that new ideas should change that process over time.
It's good, though, that he was able to celebrate the 50th anniversary. It was fun to be there with him, and that he knew this was coming anyway.
And the mayor had met with him actually many years ago, early on in his administration. And I think there was a sense that this building could be improved, and that they have been targeting some active projects, some tactical projects, some preliminary projects that are sort of testing change, like the lighting and the security. And now with the plaza, I think there's a real investment in the larger place to try to make it a better place. And I'm very thankful for that. Now, I think the state has a lot to learn from the way that the city and the mayor operated with City Hall. And I hope that perhaps there will be a sense that the Hurley building by Paul Rudolph will be given similar kind of honors and investment in preserving and perhaps modifying what it is, but doing so with respect for the original building itself.
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping, and I keep reiterating that the positive experience we've had of late at City Hall should really be informative to the state, and we're going to keep harping on that. And I'm looking forward to talking with you further. I think this is a good little taste for folks about the kind of things we're going to be talking about when we do it, get together publicly. But we encourage people to continue to watch the Alliance channels. Mark, I appreciate you getting together for a couple minutes remotely. We will talk further.
Great. Nice talking to you.
You as well.